Welcome back to another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy. Today I'm back with a solo episode, and starting the new year with an episode that I think you're going to enjoy. It's about 5 traps to avoid in 2026 to stop you maybe falling into the same habits that you have done in the past and lead you down a new path to creating a better, more unbelievable, fantastical, fantabulous version of yourselves, leading to new goals and happier feelings and more positive thoughts going into this year. I'm really excited to bring this to you, which you'll hang on for as we get onto it shortly. I just wanted to say I'm really grateful for all of the listens and the people still listening to the podcast and watching the podcast on YouTube whilst I've been away. The support is really, really appreciated. And I'm back, right? I'm back from Thailand. I took a little while away from the podcast. I think one thing that I found the most difficult is I kind of set myself a little boundary with not overkilling the Zoom episodes of the show. I like doing the Zoom episodes. There's no dramas about that. It's more so the fact that I just don't think from an editing perspective and from a quality of content perspective that they're the best. Unless somebody on the other side of the screen has a setup with a HD camera, good mic, etc. And that's all right. We can live with that and we'll learn from that. But one thing I think is important, and I'm just kind of speaking out loud here, definitely not making excuses for why there was no episodes over Christmas, is there's this balance between me from 3 years ago starting this podcast and some of the content I would release then compared to now. Like, the difference in quality is so different, and maybe I'm looking too much for that quality to be upped like too soon. I don't know. I'll leave that for you to decide. But if you do enjoy the Zoom episodes that I release, then please let me know, because I'll do more of them. But I do think especially if you're a watcher of the show as well as a listener, the content level and the quality of the content that I release is important. And it's important to me, right? Which at the end of the day is probably the most important thing, even though I do make it for people to listen to, you know. So there we go. I wanted to just get that out there. I'm excited to be back in the UK. I did have a little bit of the holiday blues for a brief period on New Year's Eve. I don't believe the sun came out once, and obviously being in an environment where there was a vast amount of heat, vast amount of sunshine, vast amount of beach that I could walk around, and it was 30 to 35 degrees on most days, to coming back. And today, obviously being the 5th of January, the weather is it is so cold in the UK, and today there was a real hard frost. I know some parts of the UK has had snow, so I hope you're all staying safe as well. But anyway, I want to just get a little bit of the welcome back in, some thoughts from me out there, as well as going into the main crux of this episode, which is 5 traps that you need to avoid in 2026. And I think it's important, right? Because one of the biggest parts of my program and my coaching is that when I started my journey, there was many occasions where I'd fall into the traps that I'm going to talk to you about today, like with quick fixes, listening to people that weren't necessarily giving you the best of advice, falling into emotional triggers and all of those kind of things. And we can come on to that today. But actually, it's still something that you see people fall into the trap of. And it's definitely something that if you are somebody that's looking to make a long-term change, which I don't think anybody wants to make a change short-term, right? Like, even if you was to look at the example of, I want to make a change and I want to become rich. You're not saying that you want to be rich and financially free for a short amount of time. That's probably a long-term goal. Nobody ever says that they want to lose 5 stone for a short amount of time. They want to lose 5 stone and they want to keep it off. Nobody ever says that they want to improve their mental health, but they only want to improve their mental health for a short period of time. And I think that is the reason why I want to create this episode today, is because I don't want these goals to be, I don't want these results to be short term for you. I want them to be real and I want them to be long term. And I want this to be something that sticks for you this year. And I genuinely mean that, because I've seen the power that the powerful change it's had on the clients that have been with me long term, and I've obviously seen the changes in myself as well. And as much as I don't like to use myself as an example, the main example of what I do, obviously there is a story that underlines why I do what I do. So of course we're going to link back to that. But really now it's about me trying to help and share my wisdom and share my knowledge and share my experience to help you guys stop it. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 things that, the 5 traps that I want you to avoid in 2026. And the first one I've already spoke about this year, and it's the I'll do it Monday trap. And this is one that sometimes, if I'm to be honest with you, that I'll fall into as well sometimes. But I've coached myself well enough now, and I'm self-aware enough now that I can skip past it more often than not. If I hear that voice of, oh, you can just do it tomorrow when it's at the weekend and it's a Sunday, and you know that you've got maybe a couple of tasks that can put you ahead of the rest of the pack going into the week, and even get you ahead of yourself going into the week, it's such a big one, because that momentum that you would potentially wait to create on a Monday is already in progress. So if you were to think about the analogy of the pushing a real big wheel, pushing that big boulder down a hill, getting over that top of the mountain or top of the hill is the hardest part, right? When it gets momentum, it's easier. That's the same as if you look at the example of starting that boulder moving on a Sunday night compared to when you're tired, when you're already busy, and when you've got things already in the diary on a Monday, trying to get that boulder moving then, when it comes to looking after your energy, when it comes to momentum, when it comes to motivation, and when it comes to creating a body that you maybe have never had before, starting that boulder moving on a Sunday evening when things are a little bit quieter, most people have free time on a Sunday evening, rather than wait until Sunday is probably rather than wait until a Monday morning is probably the best thing you can do. It also is something that I know that, like, when you set a goal, you're like, I'm going to do this then. And it links back to one of the most memorable sayings that I can remember in this whole journey is, if not now, when? And I know that's quite a simple saying, but it's so true, because people can get caught in that delaying trap. And I believe that there's like a scarcity and almost a bit of a fear that comes with the thinking of that I'm just going to wait till Monday to start this thing, because then Monday comes around, you are busy, you have your normal routine of work, you have your normal if you've got a family, your family life as well, and then you're like, oh shit, like the priority was to get into the gym today, or do some meal prep today, or make sure that I get a healthy shopping for the house today, but actually work comes in place, family jobs come in play, your regular routine of getting to work, getting back, cooking dinner, all happens, and the next thing you know, you're sat down at 8:30 in the evening and Netflix is on, and that momentum, that boulder is still stuck where it was in the morning, right? And I think when you are stuck in that I'll do it Monday trap, things like relationships, things like work, things like bad days, emotions, they can all get in the way. Whereas if we're sat there thinking about something that we want to do to benefit ourselves in the future, we should act on it then, if possible, right? And I know that's not always the case, but sometimes Chris Williamson speaks about it a lot. Sometimes the best thoughts that you have and the most productive thoughts that you have are when you're doing things that are it's somewhat monotonous, like doing some cooking, walking around with the Hoover, or in the shower. And I know a lot of people speak to me, and I know that if I have like a longer shower, those are the times when that creative spark, or that thinking brain, part of your brain that thinks about what you want to do and what you can do to help yourself, kicks in. Those are the kind of times when you should be acting on that rather than waiting, and when natural or regular habits and regular patterns in your life are taking place as well. So getting stuck in that I'll do it Monday trap, you go from one week to the next, to the next, to the next, and the next thing you know, we're halfway through February, and you've waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and now actually that boulder's still in the same place. We want to be kicking that boulder when we can, when we've got that time to think about it. If you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about doing something to benefit yourself, don't wait till Monday. Do it now. Okay, number 2. That was good, wasn't it? Went on a bit of a rant there. Man's back from Thailand. He's in the groove. The quick fix trap. We spoke about this at the start of the show. Kind of alluded to what I was going to be speaking about today. I would love to know the statistic of people who go on quick fix diets that end up putting it back on again. You're even seeing some data coming out from Manjaro and the weight loss jab, people using that as a quick fix to lose weight, and then they come off it because of the side effects or financial reasons, and then they gain it all back again, right? I think when you're looking for a quick fix, it's actually very 21st century, right? When you're looking for a quick fix, you're not actually looking to fix the problem. And I think as well, like I struggle, I don't struggle with this. I've had thoughts where I'm like, well, is it actually normal that you've taken so long to get into the position that you've got in, right? So I talk about this journey that I've been on when I've become a little bit more aware of the thoughts that are going through my brain, when I've become aware that actually the size that I wasn't healthy, when I've become aware that the fitness levels that I had wasn't where I wanted to be. It's actually a 9-year long journey, but all of those 9 years have been like a steady bit of progress. There's never been, genuinely never been, since the aircraft scales at K&N when the journey fully started, there's never been a moment where I would say, there's been plateaus, of course, no growth zones, and there's been dips mentally, but because that's life, right? Ups and downs. But there's always been that steady kind of area of progress. And I think when you drop that quick fix mentality, that becomes easier to achieve, because instead of like blowing your load really early on a journey of weight loss, or I'm going to do 100 fucking ice baths, 100 days of ice bath, and then after those 100 days you're like, well, I've done it now, I don't need to do it anymore. Without all of those mini goals that we set ourselves that are like quick fix and try and get to the crux of the problem really quickly, which obviously scientifically and biologically is possible especially when it comes to weight loss. But when it comes to like momentum, when it comes to confidence, when it comes to your own energy, and when it comes to creating a body that you actually really admire and you're happy with, and not only you look in the mirror and you go, fuck me, you sexy little bastard, you also perform really well too. Like in any aspect, you're not feeling tired all the time. You can go to the gym, or you can go out for a run, or you can go out for a walk with your partner and not feel tired. Your legs and your muscles and your back aren't aching. All of those things come into consideration, and I don't think they come into consideration if you're looking for a quick fix. That's genuinely that's just my opinion on it, and I think there's evidence, and I believe there's evidence. You could go and get that evidence to show that it's right as well. I think as well, when it comes to fast results, it can lead to you burning out quicker too. And then, like I said to you about the idea of doing something really quickly, like 100 days of this, or I'm going to do a run every week. When you do that, you're leading yourself to almost like feel like you're in a bit of a dopamine circle as well, because you're not nurturing any part of your mentality around why you've got there in the first place. You're not analysing what it is that's maybe worked in the past as well. All you're doing is going, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, and you're banging on the button like of do. You're like 2 weeks into it and you're like, fuck me, I'm tired. You maybe not fueled yourself well enough. You've maybe got a little injury because you've been hammering the gym, or you've been hammering the road with running, or you've been neglecting some part of nutrition. Like, I know obviously a quick fix that people go to is cutting out carbs. And the little side tangent on this, it's not a criticism, but people who will cut carbs for a part of this early part of the year will go, oh yeah, I've lost 3/4 of a stone in 3 days. I'm like, yeah, without being patronising, that's water weight. You've got rid of all of the carbohydrates in your system. And if you think about every gram of carb will hold 3 grams of water, it's just water weight. And I think there's just little bits of education like that people will get sucked into and then make them crave that quick fix, that then when maybe they do have a meal that has carbs in and they put on weight, they haven't actually put on weight. Their body's just holding a little bit more water than what it was. And then that's the trap, right? It's the quick fix, the dopamine hit of the however many runs in a row, however many ice baths in a row, maybe listening to a couple of podcasts and maybe doing a couple of weeks meal prep and dropping that weight on the scales. But then the backfire of the fatigue, the actually not feeling as good as they thought they would after a few ice baths, actually the scales rose, like the list goes on, gets you caught into, oh, that quick fix didn't work, but actually I quite like the feeling that it gave me at the start, so I'm going to just stop for a minute, but then the feeling that it gave me will make me start it again to try that quick fix diet again in the future. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head anyway. So if you're anything like my brain, you totally understand what I've just said. I think what I'm cutting that down into a more easy to break down way is that the results that you get at the start of a quick fix can become addictive. You know that they are failing you, but because they got you what you consider to be a result at the start, a quick drop in the scales, a nice buzz from a nice bath, or the motivation feeling of doing a few runs and then dropping off, you then go back to that in a month's time because you think that's the thing that's going to save you, and it's actually not. It's the small, boring, minuscule habits that you can add up, like journaling, like, well, doing less. In fact, if we break it down even more, doing less can give you more. And without even falling into a trap talking about traps, falling into a phrase there, I've just fallen into one of the most well-known phrases of all time, right? Less is more. And it's definitely the case when it comes to quick fixes. Hello, YouTube. I'm stopping you in the middle of this episode because a lot of you who stick around and watch my podcast episodes aren't yet subscribed. So do me a favor before you carry on watching the rest of this episode and just click the subscribe button. And you don't even need to watch every episode, but what it does do is it boosts this channel and it helps me a long, long way. Enjoy the rest of the show. When you're doing quick fixes, you're doing too much, leads to burnout, leads to unwanted dopamine spikes that lead you wanting to come back to it again in the future. Bosh. Next one. Okay, yeah, I enjoy this one. Something I've noticed more, and I don't know if you've realised with my content, I'm not somebody really that goes out there and says anything too controversial. It's probably to my detriment, right? Because emotion and black and white thinking and having really strong opinions on a subject that don't really need strong opinions on will lead to you to get views, will lead to you to potentially get clients, lead to more conversations, blah, blah, blah. But where I'm going with this is, like, people who fire out those emotional online triggers, your Eddie Abus, Joe Wicks, we've spoke about them before, all of their philosophies and all of their guidance and all of their nutrition and all of their diet planning leads to everything that I'm completely and utterly against. It's quick fixes. They're not sustainable. They don't work for they don't work for everybody. Of course they don't. But what I'm saying about that is there's no individual planning with regards to what they're doing. They don't know about your lifestyle. They don't know how many kids you've got. They don't care how many kids you've got, right? Quite simply. And I understand they're a business, right? We're a capitalist. We're in the West. We're in the West of the world. We are in a capitalist society. And I completely and utterly respect what those guys and more are doing in terms of growing their business. It's brilliant. But the emotional algorithm that they're triggering online does get people like you to respond to it, and me in the past to respond. I've done Joe Wicks's meals and all those things in the past. Never would work with Eddie Abu, but especially now because I'm slightly more knowledgeable on the subject. But what they do is that they bring you into an emotional trigger. They offer you a solution, and then if you're anything like me in the past, you buy into that solution for 2 weeks and then you're back into the same pattern, right? Emotional triggers by these coaches doesn't mean that they're a good coach. They're just really good at getting that trigger out of you, right? They're really good at working the algorithm. They're really good at getting on your feed and saying something to you that you're like, oh shit, yeah, they might be right. Like, one of the videos I've seen recently is that if the calorie deficit isn't helping you lose weight, then you need to eat fucking steak and eggs for the rest of your life. That's just bollocks. Like, if you think you're in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit. Period. But where I'm going with this is, there's so much right now out there on the algorithm. Me as a coach, right, and with my own business, is that all of my algorithm right now is about the next best business owner who thinks that they can earn me six figure sum this year, and they're all, do you know what I mean? It's all similar, but it's clever, it's smart, but it's not going to get you results, right? The same way that a 1 week free course isn't going to get me the best business in the world. Get what I'm saying there? But you will feel called out. You'll see that reel, and you're going to potentially buy a program that I'm trying to stop you doing, right? If you feel emotionally triggered by something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be beneficial for you. What that means is that there is potentially a nagging doubt there for you, but you definitely don't need to be going after the emotional trigger for that. Maybe a bit of self-analysis as to why you're getting emotionally triggered, working out what is going well for you right now rather than thinking about what's going wrong, and then doubling down on what's going well. And you can do that with my free 2026 questionnaire, all about self-assessment and reviewing what went right and what went wrong in 2025, to lead to you to being in a better mental position and giving you a better mental picture of where you're at right now. Just a little mini plug, middle of the episode there. I've got a little note here. Structure will beat the hype of an emotional reel every time, and I completely believe that. And it's something that's got. If you look at the breakdown of a marathon run, there's nothing in that marathon training that is based off of emotion. It's just, you put your trainers on, you go out and you run a distance, you come back, you fuel. Then 2 days later, you go out and you run a tempo run, and you come back and you fuel. Right, there's nothing exciting about that. The excitement is at the end. And I think that these emotional reels sell you excitement in the reel rather than actually what the main point of it is. Okay, so similar to number 2, but definitely different as well. The all or nothing trap. I think it kills progress every time, because if you're all into something, I kind of spoke about it with the quick fix trap. But when you're all or nothing, it can be so detrimental to you, because you think that one missed session, missing a meal, having a takeaway, one scale weigh in that you don't think should be higher but it is, all of these kind of things can lead you to thinking that you have done something wrong. And there's almost like a perfectionism thing here. And again, diving right into my philosophy, if you got 40% to give on a day and you give 40%, giving you 100%, right? And I also believe that when you get stuck in that all or nothing mentality, there's a little bit of perfectionism within you there that, again, without being patronizing, without being feeling like I'm repeating the same thing, because I do on a lot of podcasts, but that must mean that it's important, is perfection doesn't exist. There's no such thing. We may be the 100% podcast, but it doesn't mean that I give 100% all the time, because that's impossible. I can't be 100%. There'd be a few days since I created the brand of 100% where I feel like I've even got close to nailing 100% of every day, because it's so impossible. Those big events that we've got on the wall behind us, potentially the events that I've held, the big talks on stages I've done, that's where you feel 100%. But just because somebody said no to me doing a speaking gig, or just because I've missed a gym session, or just because a run hasn't gone as well as what I wanted it to in a training block, that doesn't mean that I've stopped aiming towards all of those goals that I've had, right? I think when you think about all or nothing, the substitute that you can make there is to think about, instead of thinking about I need it to be perfect, I need to be consistent. And that's it. And when you think about consistency, if you were to think about it again in percentages, 80-20, 80% good, 20% mediocre, or maybe even 18% mediocre, 2% not so good, this 80% here, right, is going to get you those results. And I think that's so important to remember, that all or nothing, I think the end of the sentence says it all, nothing. It's basically nothing, because you're going to beat yourself up if you do something that you perceive to be wrong. And I want you to get out of that mindset. Okay, so the final one, the outsourcing of responsibility trap. I think, again, looking at where we are in the year right now, where we are in a position where we want, like, naturally, the year has ticked over, boom, people want to make change. When it comes to this part of the year, there's a lot of programs, apps, you name it, it's for sale, right, to help you make a change. And I think one thing, especially in conversations I've had with clients and previous clients and people who are just asking for advice, they've used things like Headspace, they've tried Runner, they've got MyFitnessPal, they've got Strava, they've invested in coaches in the past. But this is going to be quite a quick wrap up actually for point 5. But when you have all of those things, you can almost feel like you've done the thing. You've put in your details to MyFitnessPal. It's given you your calorie target. Be careful with that, by the way. We can do a separate episode on that. We can put all of our details into Runner, and it can give us the perfect AI running plan. But it doesn't necessarily take into consideration who you are as a person. There's no like emotional... I'm going to use emotional triggers there, but there's no emotional awareness of you as a person as to maybe why certain runs and certain distances and all of those kind of things, and maybe why you may not be consistent with that plan is taken into it or isn't taken into account when it comes to having every great intention and signing up to a half marathon for the first time, or 5k for the first time, or whatever it may be, or even paying somebody to make you a gym plan. You've made a great, like a really intentful, amazing action, but there's no substitute right here for the responsibility of actually doing the thing. And this isn't a hustle more. This isn't a you need to work harder, you need to want it more end of the podcast, because that's just not how I work. I don't believe that. I think everybody's energy gets spent in the way that they feel it most useful to do at the time. But I also believe that there is a space for you to invest in the right way right now, especially like thinking about financial things right now. There's a lot of money in the world, right? But not everybody's got a lot of it. And that's so true. I totally understand that as well. But when you invest in something for yourself, make sure that it's the right thing. Don't hand responsibility over to an app. It's always within you. Don't hand responsibility over to a coach who's going to make you a program, because you've still got to go in the gym, or you've still got to go out on the road and tick those sessions of the program off, right? There has to be, but the biggest bit of, if I was to ask myself the question I ask my guests at the end of a podcast, what's the greatest bit of advice you've ever been given, is solely take responsibility. If you take responsibility for more of your results than not, you'll start getting them. If you hand responsibility over to somebody else, or an app, or a plan, or a challenge, or you're blaming other people for the way that you're feeling, you're blaming other people for your energy, you're going to get more of that negative energy rather than taking responsibility for where you are and what you want to achieve and going and doing it. And that's definitely not in a hustle mindset. That is just in a sense of energy moves energy. When people come to me in my program and they tell me that they're lacking in energy, and I ask them what they've done today, 99% of people will tell me that they've not moved. They've sat at their desk at work or at home and they've spent no energy. To feel more energy and get more energy, you've got to spend some. And I fully will stand by that forever. And that's the same with results as well. To get results, you've got to spend something. You've got to take responsibility. And I mean that in two senses, to be honest with you. Spend on something that's going to get you some reward towards what you want. And if that is the app and you are going to take responsibility, great. But more often than not, it's going to be a world-class coach, which I've demonstrated. And maybe it's me that you're going to work with in the future, right? Why not plant that seed? But I think as well, going back to the point I made after point 3 with regards to analysing where you are right now, I think that's such an important tool. And that's it. I'm wrapping this up right now. I'm just going to wrap through quickly just to summarise what we've spoken about today. I'll do it Monday trap. Don't get caught into it. It can lead very quickly into a repeating cycle, and that then can become a habit. And right here, when you're listening to this podcast, we're here to create good habits and break bad ones. So let's do that. Quick fix trap. Don't get caught in it. Emotional online trigger trap. You know the people I'm talking about, right? Don't get bought into their bullshit. All or nothing trap and outsourcing responsibility trap. I want to point you, if you've enjoyed this episode, I think you would absolutely love using the 100% journal. 100% journal is something that can help you stay on track with your goals, especially in we are in 2026, so especially in 2026. Definitely something that can keep you in check with your energy. The reason it will keep you in check with your energy is because it keeps you focused on what's working for you, not focused on what's not working. And I think that's so important when you're chasing big goals. The other reason, the final reason, is this journal. I've worked with some really cool coaches, right? And this journal is filled with the questions that I would get asked that have got me the best results. So you fill these in, they're already prompted. You don't get a empty workbook that you're supposed to willy-nilly make it up. This is there for you to utilize, and it's already set up for you to use. So go to the link in the description of this episode or the link in my bio on Instagram and Facebook and download yourself a copy of the 14-day journal. And then if you want the real version, just let me know as well, because I can send you that. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you have got some value from what I've spoken about, please go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and drop a 5-star review. And if you are watching on YouTube, I will be honest with you, YouTube, I feel tired today. And I don't know if you can tell in my eyes. Look at that. If you are watching on YouTube, like, subscribe below. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate being back in the UK. I appreciate recording solo episodes of the podcast. There'll be more of these and there'll be more guests soon. Sat opposite me here. I'll see you soon. Take care.